The weekly wave. Oh, I can't spell the nose. The weekly wave. Oh, can you tell me who? The weekly wave. Did you see him? The weekly wave. I'm glad you stopped by. Take him to him, baby.
They trying to child proof our business? Sounds like this kid.
Take him up again. What?
Evidently it doesn't take much. I love drinking Ace classic with the other guy there.
Yeah. Oh, can you tell me who? The weekly wave. Oh, yeah. The weekly wave. Did it in the nose? The weekly wave.
New riff, huh? That's local, yeah?
New riff, baby. It is. Shout out to my man Seth for the birthday present. I appreciate you, brother. Do me a favor. Scoot a little bit over to this side of the frame just so we can get you more in the shot. Nick Meehan. Is that how you say your last name?
That's it.
How you let us go years without getting your last name right? John brought this up, and I was like, I'm not going to harass him. And I was like, fuck it. I'm going to harass him about this.
Man.
You're such a nice guy, Nick. Why would you put up with our bullshit?
I just got tired of trying. For some reason, it's just really hard for people. It's
Man.
like, it's just a silent H. That's all it is. People can say Tchaikovsky, no problem. Like, no problem. But to say Meehan, it really bothers people. And so I just like,
Have your career
Screw
aspirations changed so that people won't mess up your last name? Or do you want to rise into fame and have people still fucking it up?
no, I'm literally, I'm done correcting people. It's just
Fair enough.
phonetically now. It's just Meehan. And that's totally fine. Like, it doesn't bother me.
What's also funny, John does such a great job with the nicknames in this band. It's like this nickname has evolved out of this dumb phonetic pronunciation of your last name.
I like it. It's cool. Yeah.
Well, to that, brother. Cheers, man.
Hey.
Thanks for coming back on.
Hey, cheers. Thanks for having me. I
how was-
made it on the wave, baby.
Finally, man. Hopefully I don't fuck up this episode. We did a full hour and a half one day that I just messed up the recording on. We got nothing from it.
Sorry, that was the prequel.
It was the silent prequel. I'll find evidence of this at a later date.
Yeah.
How was the goose last night?
Actually, didn't go.
Nice.
Just went home.
Got those coronas and it's like it's time to go to bed. Yeah.
That's it, yeah.
What do you think makes someone a townie? Like when do you get put in the category of townie at your local bar?
I don't know. I suppose depends on how often you frequent your local watering hole, I'd suppose. Right?
Yes, I'd say like you had to be in the weekly resident kind of category.
Yeah.
What's the lottery game that they have at all these fucking bars?
Oh, I don't know.
The one
man.
that's hilarious. God, I forget the name of it, but it's always on the TVs and whatnot, and
I don't know.
it's
I don't
big
play
and
them,
silver.
so I don't-
Okay, yeah.
Keno? Is it
Keno.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think Keno is one of the categories where it's like you might be a townie if you play Keno, if you go once a week.
Or if you do the golf, the
Golden Tee.
golden tee.
If
That's
you
it.
have a tight Golden Tee game and you're on the record book at that
Right,
bar, you're
that's
one
right.
of their townies.
That's right, yep.
Man, local watering holes are such an odd thing. Like, especially, so you grew up in the beautiful Reading, Ohio.
I did.
Most bars per capita in the Midwest. Like,
Yes, sir. Guinness Book of World Records.
no shit.
Yeah.
When you were a kid
Bars and bridal shops.
on a Friday night, are people just out walking to their bars for the most part? Okay.
Yeah.
And what kind of a neighborhood did you grow up in? Was it a lot of kids your age, or did you kind of grow up around a lot of adults?
A little both.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Reading is like the classic, the hill and the valley.
Dude, there's a segregation going on geographically in that neighborhood.
That's right, yeah.
It's
So
like, you valley dwelling motherfucker.
Yeah. So I was a valley boy, and you just play basketball and whatever.
Yeah.
Football in the streets with your friends. And
It seemed like a tight-knit neighborhood for the most part,
Absolutely.
though. Like, the kids are walking to the high school and walking to the grade school. I feel like that makes a big difference in your experience overall.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
As someone that went to a school in that neighborhood, too, it's like my bus ride was only 10 minutes, but you realize, like, there are a lot of kids in that neighborhood that are out and about at 7 o'clock doing the thing. And, like, I don't know, you think that makes someone more independent to walk themselves to and from school?
Yeah, I think so.
Would you want that kind of experience for your own kids? You're kind of like, nah, I want to get dropped off by dad every day while he's sipping his coffee and go and do the thing.
I don't know, Matt. Amber and I were just talking about this today. The world has changed so much, and school has changed so much. We're personally thinking about homeschooling.
That's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
Emma's homeschooled her
Yeah.
whole academic career.
Awesome.
And I think people in that category have an insane personal accountability
Yeah.
that you do not get when you have to work at 20 other people's rates every single time you're in a classroom. You know
sure.
what I mean? It's
For
like,
sure.
no, when you're done with your shit, you're kind of done with your shit. You can move on.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of advantages. Obviously, the relational
Yeah.
connection, that aspect, and
To see your parent as your educator is a very intimate way to do it. At times, like, I would wonder if that's too much time to have to be around your parent. But at the same time, like, there's no one that's going to understand your learning style the way that your
Exactly.
parent will want to.
yeah.
And the relatability of that.
And the different experiences you can offer them.
Yeah.
You know, because you're not, chained to a desk all day. It's like you can make your learning more experiential.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
and
especially
take them to museums or different places and like
yeah.
get like a life experience that helps foster learning as well.
And especially as people start to see the academic institution we build as something that doesn't serve every career path you could end up in. Like, as someone that has no formal training in your, I wouldn't say your main career path. I mean, you've worked a wide variety of jobs, but drums is your person. It's not like anyone ever needed to sit in front of you and tell you how or why. It's like, no, I heard the information from the teachers I needed, and I absorbed that.
Yep.
When did you first start really learning by ear as a kid?
Oh man, probably about 3. That's
Okay.
when I started playing.
And you think you were learning by ear at 3?
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's such a mind fuck to me, man.
Yeah,
Because I see 3-year-olds in my own family, my nephews. I put them on that drum kit and I say, "Let's follow the leader." I'll play them something. It's like their ability to interpret and come back with that is pretty low. And I think there's a special part of that age group that, like, you can barely speak. This is the way you communicate with the world. So do you think you were just like personally attached at the hip to the drum set? Like, why'd it click so well?
I don't know, man. I think obviously the barrier to entry is so low. Like, I mean, my son is just barely scratching 16 months.
Cool.
So it was a year and change. And he knows what to do. You put the drumsticks in his hands, and he knows how to hit them, and he understands that there's this instrument, and he has preferences. He really likes the ride cymbal, and like, it's so easy to like put sticks in a young child's hands, and naturally they just know how to hit stuff.
Yeah.
So that's part of it, and then I just think I was such a music fanatic as a young child. I got really lucky. Both of my parents were just, music junkies. My dad was a guitar player, a bitchin' guitar player.
Dude,
And-
I've still never heard him play besides maybe one time at Fretboard where I think he sat in with us for a couple minutes.
That's right.
Which was super rad. I think it was the
Yeah.
first time. It's always nice when, like, you meet someone for the first time and before you can ask them any questions about who they are.
You're
they're-
playing together.
Exactly. It's like
Love it.
it's just a better way to get to know you if we have the set and setting to do so.
Absolutely. But yeah, so he was a music lover, and my mom, rock and roll delinquent herself. That's how they wound up together.
Yeah.
Cliche, like, girl loves guitar player. They get together. Now here I am.
Yeah, here comes the drummer of the family.
Yeah. So music was always on in the house growing up, and from the time I opened my eyes until the time I shut them for the day, like, my boombox was playing, or I was cranking up the stereo, or music always on in the car, like, just your classic typical story. And
Do you remember your first copy of a piece of music that you kept on your person, like your first CD or player?
I used to carry a bunch of them I would have like 10 of them on me at all times. It would be like Rush 2112, and then like let's see, Metallica, probably like, I don't know, Ride the Lightning, or just I would
Yeah, you had your
I always
collection
had-
of classics.
Yeah, and they'd always be in rotation, and like
That's awesome.
Aerosmith would be in one coat, and then I'd have like Zeppelin in my other coat, and I just carried around my CDs, like, even if I couldn't listen to them.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
I think there's really weird. There's a really weird category of, like, comfort albums of things that you spun in that kind of a way, start to finish, all the time, where it's like, music is nostalgic in the same way that, like, foods and smells are nostalgic. You blast back to those moments. Something kicks on and has that right set and setting. Like which one's the most visceral for you to put back on these days?
Oh, these days, man, I'm really still spinning a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah.
I I don't think I've ever taken a break from Metallica. Like it's so raw and aggressive, and I just wanted to be Lars as a kid, and
feel like
I still do.
Lars is somewhat hated though, and it's
Oh,
such
for
an
sure.
odd thing that
For
he's like, he is the scapegoat for all metal fans like sellout needs. Like they all go after him. And it's because he's the one guy that's got big enough mouth to say like, I don't like you stealing my music. Like he's a lot of great interviews on God, what's the old radio guy Stern.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
a lot of great Stern interviews where you can tell this guy is very eloquent. He's very passionate. He parties pretty hard.
He's a Viking.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't want to party with that guy.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Lars
Ulrich,
Yeah,
yeah.
What a Viking last name, bro.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Did you listen to that new Metallica album?
Of course. Oh,
I
yeah.
have not listened to it at all. I've heard
yeah.
great things
It's
about it.
killing, man. It's bitching. Yeah. Turn it up loud.
Really?
It's really good.
What is it about like Metallica owns the category of thrash, and I don't even know what really signifies thrash metal.
Yeah.
You know, like what is it sonically that took us from operatic metal into this?
That's a tough question, man. I'm not necessarily a metal connoisseur per se, so I think the right person might pummel me depending on what I say. But
Well, fuck them. You know?
well, yeah, no, for sure. No, to me, thrash is just like, you know,
Yeah.
like Kill 'Em All, you know, like
Yes.
just put on Kill 'Em All, and like that's thrash to me.
Yeah.
You know,
And I think that's a great way to kind of outline when these trends start, because a song comes out and it sounds so different. It's like, oh, we need a new title for this thing.
yeah,
And you see that when grunge comes on the scene. It's like
Yeah.
grunge is kind of the inverse of that, where it's like it's sloshy, it's
Yeah.
low tempo,
Yeah.
it's a little more singer-songwriter-esque.
Yeah.
But there's something about when thrash was still grooving, like Metallica's a very
Yeah.
danceable band, believe it or not. You know,
Yeah.
I'm sure many times that you got in there, it's like, no, this pocket's where it's at.
oh yeah,
But there's a lot of metal that doesn't get that to me. I saw this band in
Yeah.
Wisconsin this weekend called Trash Panda.
Okay.
They were very like operatic metal. Like it was a female
Interesting.
vocalist, but she reminded me of Rob Halford. She was fucking killing, man. And I was like, this is
Wow.
very danceable, fun metal, which is what I'm there for.
Interesting. Hell yeah.
Yeah, man.
Dude, metal has like probably the most subgenres out of any style of music that I can think of. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, there's like 50 types of hardcore, you know? It's like melodic deathcore and post-core hard stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, there's so much.
And what do you think
They're
that is?
very serious about it. I don't know.
Yeah. It's like they're very hard on their labels, and people own those labels in a very different way than other genres do. It's like,
Yeah.
if I talk about my band, like I say funk or rock, and it's like, because I'm trying to be vague, it's not for me to put a term on it. Versus I feel like some of these bands came up with their genre before they wrote a lick of music. And they just pinpoint and aim, you know?
Man, I don't know. I think there's something to do with the fan base. Like, it seems like a particular type of person that's like very intelligent, maybe a bit angsty, you know. I don't know, just very kind of heady and like particular about details, and
Yeah.
it's mostly like the fans I know who are like, no, it's not, you know,
Yeah.
it's not this, it's that. Like, get it right, motherfucker.
And
you
I
know?
think you're right in saying like these are very intellectual types, and I think folks move towards metal because the internal dissonance they might feel is very much shown through the music. It's like,
Well
why
said.
do you have very nice, very loving people going in the mosh pit?
Right,
Because that's not all their person, you
That's
know. They're
right,
here to
that's
get rid
right.
of. During this Trash Panda set, this
Yeah.
girl comes out of nowhere and just throws me a huge shoulder. Like, I'm standing way back. She goes, mosh pit, it's
Yes.
just us. I'm like, I'm not bopping around with you. Like, I'm
Yeah.
headbanging by myself. Thank you.
Love it.
What was the most metal band you ever played in, Nick?
Oh man, there's a band. I hope they're still together. I don't know if they are. I think they're called We Are as Ronin.
Okay.
Yeah.
We are, comma, as Ronin.
WARR is the acronym. So yeah, We Are as Ronin, and they were super nice guys, killing players. And I was just subbing for him one time. It was actually such a funny gig for me, man. It's the only like difficult music, metal through and through, like no bullshit. Like it was heavy,
Yeah.
and like I had to write charts. Like the parts were intricate, and like they wanted them, you know, exactamundo,
Yeah.
and Super sweet dudes, man, and they fucking slayed. And it was in this warehouse somewhere in Dayton. And it was like a straight up metal fest, dude. And I like came in and I had like my poloed button up to the top, my slicked hair, and I was just like, where am I? I was sweating it a little bit. I'm like, man, am I in the right place? Everybody was so cool.
That's awesome.
Nicest people I've ever met.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like everyone was super there for the music, really loyal fans, like really dedicated to it, there to have a great time.
Well, I think there's something special when, like you were saying, people learn to communicate through their instrument. And once someone hears you communicate through your instrument, it's like it's open arms. You're welcome in this community because you play with so much heart. Mm-hmm. You're one of those guys that will go blind from the sweat in his eyes before he tries to reach off and go to the forehead. It's like, no, I'm here for this right now.
Yeah, baby, yeah. It was tons of fun. I mean, we smashed. And then I got the hell out of there, and that was that. Never talked to him again. It was just kind of a one-off thing, but yeah, it was so surprising to me. I thought it was going to be like more of a rough crowd, and no, it was like the sweetest people ever. I mean, it was like it would have been probably like the same thing as like a Dead. Like I've never been to a Dead show,
mm-hmm.
but I would guess like everyone there would be like super sweet.
Yeah,
so it was like the same exact thing. You just like have spikes around your neck or something, you know what I mean? Like,
totally, the aesthetic change is what you might think of it walking in, but I think anytime that people gather for the sake of music, the intentions are generally for just that. It's like, besides the Hell's Angels going to a Stones concert, it's not like you're trying to kick ass,
Absolutely.
Unless you're in the pit. Some people, it blows my mind the way people talk about mosh pits so fondly. It's like, I played childhood football. It seems a lot like that without the pads and without like maniac coaches, which I kind of like the maniac coaches. Like, there was a drunk guy at the St. Mike's Fest yesterday. I think he was a grade school football coach of mine, but I didn't want to say anything because he was plastered, and I was like, I don't even want to bring up these days. He might switch into mode and get under the pads.
Right. Don't poke the bear. Just
exactly. Just
move
on through there.
That's right. Yeah.
So did you go into a lot of festivals? I know you went to a lot of shows, but
no, man. Believe it or not, I don't know if I've ever to this day been to a legitimate festival.
Really?
Yeah, no, I don't think I have.
And does it interest you at all, or is it just...
Yeah, I mean, it's such a weird thing because I feel like festivals have changed so much these days. And like now, if you look at a bill, you're just like, at least me, I'm like, I don't even know what this is. Like, I don't understand. There used to be like a theme, like it would make sense. And now to me, it just seems like super fragmented and disjointed, and it's just like we'll have Snoop Dogg and like Foo Fighters and like Lady Gaga and whoever else, and I'm like, which is cool, it's totally cool, but it's not. And then like 500 indie bands,
yes,
you know what I mean, that all sound
Small
the
font.
same. Yeah, and yeah, you need like a telescope to, and I don't know, I don't get it, man. And there's not, I don't think, enough bands these days that are still doing it and doing it well that I would want to pay that kind of money for, that are all going to be together like at the same time in one weekend.
Like, you don't feel like it would be packaged well enough to sell you on the ticket.
I don't have that kind of money. You know, I can't justify $500 or whatever for a weekend for, unless it were like really special. It would have to like really, really excite me, and sometimes, I don't know. Never say never, but
yeah. Well, you're right in the way the like lineups look more genre-wise discombobulated than ever. But I think the people that go to festivals tend to have a little bit of wanderlust, where it's like, I like to show up. I buy a ticket because I love the Foo Fighters and their Sunday of Bonnaroo this year, and I love going to Bonnaroo. And it's like, so now I have this whole weekend that I'm gonna fill seeing things that I didn't expect to see.
Right on.
And the only buy-in that I have to that show is walking up, checking it out, and then walking to the next one if I feel like it.
Right on.
I saw a band called the Lemon Twigs at Bonnaroo a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Where it's like, that name I think is awful. The songs themselves I wasn't that sold on.
Okay.
But the stage show, I mean, I watched, this lead singer was batshit, and like you should never count out an indie band and what they're willing to do to get you to pay attention for a few minutes. This guy jumped as high as he could, goes completely like sideways, belly flops off the floor and lands on his feet. Like, I'm watching this and like, I'm pretty inebriated at this point. I'm so impressed, but I could feel his pain. I'm like, that dude's going to crack a rib doing this.
Yeah.
And it's just to get a little bit more pop from the audience. Like,
yeah.
And I guess that really it stood out to me as a great example of the platform that it is. Like, okay, you got Snoop, Lana Del Rey, and Foo Fighters, and all these people that came just to see them.
Yeah.
But you might catch them with another 15 minutes on the way to one of those stages.
Sure.
So what are you willing to go through for
Right.
them to remember you? It's like,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
never
yeah.
forget the Lemon Twigs because this guy did a belly flop on hard land. Okay, it was
Sure.
crazy.
Yeah, no, respect. I don't think I would ever walk away after seeing the Lemon Twigs and be like, I need to put that in my CD player for the drive home.
I haven't listened
You know?
to him once.
Yeah,
You know, exactly.
see?
But is it one of the most epic concert experiences I've had? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say the same thing about Hobo Johnson. I watched Hobo Johnson from across the way. It was like, same kind of thing. It was just weird, and I'm cool with that, you know?
And that's a good point too, man. I think it depends on kind of what you're after out of the experience,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And for me, like, I might be in the minority here. I actually prefer like a small, intimate. I wanna be moved, and I wanna connect, and you know what I mean. Like, I don't need pyro and like LSD and like, I don't want
Yeah.
a circus.
But
know
you
what
were
I
a
mean?
kid that grew up a Kiss fan. Do you not
Oh,
love?
I know.
That's
No.
it's so ironic to think that like you almost your taste aged out of the Flash, and now it's just about the performance, which I respect. As someone that puts so
Yeah.
much time in their instrument, you want to see that reflected in the show.
Yeah, the most beautiful moments that I can ever remember in seeing shows are like, they're always acoustic, and it's like usually a really small room, small crowd, really loyal people who are there to that, like, the music really means something to them. It's not just Bonnaroo where you just go and get trashed and you happen to
Sleep in
catch a
the
couple
field,
things. Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, but you know what I mean? It's like, you know, it's special, you know, and like, those are the things that I will remember. You know what I mean? It's not gonna be like the giant whatevers. It's like, no, I remember like that one night in Nashville, Amber and I caught Alan Stone, and we were this far away, and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
that's exactly what I wanted to ask you about, because
Yeah.
Alan Stone is one of these mutual loves of ours that like
yes.
musically, I think he's very reminiscent of a Marvin Gaye to me, where it's like there's no flash in what he's doing. His vocal runs are because he feels this way.
Yeah.
And he seems like a very uplifting, positive dude, but like you can feel some of the anguish in some of those notes, and I think
Totally.
all of us want to feel a well packaged but like resonant performance, and you get that through those gritty moments, man.
Totally.
Is he
He's
up-
a super, super sweetheart too.
Really?
Oh yeah, he's like the nicest dude in the world.
Did you go backstage for that show?
Mhm.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, he's a super sweet dude. Yeah.
What
Super
kind of a
cool.
band lineup is that?
Well, for that it was just let's see, I think it was just him because let's see, Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness headlined, and,
Nice.
and his music's really important to me, so it was the two of them, and so it was basically Andy's band, which is Mannequin, which used to be something corporate, so it was like Bobby Oxblood, and let's see,
What a great name.
yeah. Who else was there? Oh, Zach Clark, he's a super, like, just beautiful human being.
What's he play?
In that lineup, he's like the utility guy.
Cool.
Keys, organ,
One of those
percussion.
monsters.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And sings like a bird. They all do. So it was basically like that band minus drums, and then like Al.
Nice.
You know, yeah, and it was just so. It was a beautiful night, man.
Yeah.
I'll never forget it.
Tell me about Andrew McMahon and the Wilderness.
Yeah.
What do you love about them?
Well, it started for me with Jack's Mannequin.
Is that an album of theirs?
So that was his band before he became Andrew McMahon in the Wilderness.
Cool.
So he kind of went through this sort of like, you know, caterpillar, butterfly metamorphosis.
Yeah.
You know, where he had like a punk band and then like another punk band, and now it's just him, but with those same cats live.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So what drew me to his previous band, Jack's Mannequin, was a lot of that you're talking about, just the raw kind of like a punk rock ethos, but through like beautiful, tasteful piano rock music.
Nice.
You know, and like there's something about his lyrics that are so honest and blunt and like literal that really resonates with me. Like, I think everyone loves a good metaphor, which is great, right? But like, there's no metaphor when he says like, "I'm doling the day with a drink in a parking garage by the theater." You know, there's just something
Yeah.
like you know what I mean? Like you
There's
can
something kind of punk about that.
you can really just like he says what he means, and there's just something about that, and the like, you know, a good loud distorted guitar and some just
Yeah.
you know.
I also like a piano-driven band. I think
do
that.
too. It's so pretty, isn't it?
Yeah, I was listening to a guy named Rick Beato on,
Oh, yeah.
on YouTube.
Yeah, yeah.
Phenomenal music instructor and a great page. And he was talking about this Billy Joel song called
Yes.
Honesty that I've never
Yeah.
listened to this track. And he's just kind of going through the voicings and why they're sexy. And it's great when someone has a theory background to really
Yes.
quantify what makes something special.
Yeah.
And with keyboard players, like just the ability to play with bass notes and to have your triads, expand and contract and kind of have this dissonance and constants that plays with. It's like cowboy chords on the guitars just don't get that.
Totally.
A guitar player and a bass player playing almost in unison. It's like you don't get that. You get that through one guy's crazy push to.
That's right.
Yeah,
It's
it's like
a beautiful instrument, man.
yeah, it's the counterpoint that Billy puts in those things. Where it's like, okay, this guy obviously grew up playing Bach and Beethoven and beautiful shit.
Absolutely. And that's actually, it's funny that you bring him up too, because he was probably the first music I ever heard was Billy Joel. As a baby, my dad used to rock me to sleep to Billy Joel.
Do you remember what the album was for that?
Oh, I mean, all of them, man.
Okay.
But, gosh, I would say, yeah, Toys in the Attic. Wait, that's an Aerosmith record. Toys in the Attic.
Great name.
Anyway,
Like Strangers or something like that. And
yeah, I mean, it was all of the good classic like 70s shit before it was like weirdo 80s stuff. You know?
Gotcha.
So it was, Miami 2017, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant,
Scenes from Italian Restaurant's one of those hits that like
I
other
love it.
people love way more than I do.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't.
I love it.
I think Billy just has so many songs that have that kind of like intense imagery.
Yeah.
That like that one almost doesn't interest me as much because like I've been to an Italian restaurant. I think I know what he's talking about, but like maybe I'm being a prick and I need to listen more.
No,
But
I get it, man. No, I love it, dude. I love it. But yeah, his music is really special to me. So I've always loved Bill and Elton and just the piano in general.
piano-based rock and roll is just so different.
It is. So like when I'm in high school and like my whole disposition in general is this, like the Jack's Mannequin shit was like, oh yeah, like
Yeah.
turn this up, and like so we would travel and try to check them out and follow them around.
Did you do much road stuff while you were in high school?
No, I would just go with my friends missing for the weekend and go see our favorite bands. We would just go try if it was driving distance.
Yeah.
So, and I first found out about them. They were opening for OAR, which I was a fanatic.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That's a bit-
still really am.
I've never
Yeah.
really gotten into OAR, man.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those requests that I get handed every once in a while by like a very specific demographic of like Dave Matthews fans.
Yep.
And because of that, I've always seen them as like a number two of that genre, and probably never
Sure.
given them the chance they deserve.
Sure, that's fair.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah, loved their music for since late '90s. In high school, followed them around. If I could drive, if I could make it there in a day, we would sit 10, 11, 12 hours to just to be able to get in, race to the pit. Doing this,
Getting up
you
there.
know.
How many guys
Loved
would you
it.
take to do this?
There'd usually be like 10 of us.
No shit, that's quite the squad, yo.
Yeah.
These are all neighborhood kids you grew up with? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, we still do. And they're an Ohio band, right?
Yeah,
And, Columbus is not that far, man. So.
for sure. Are the guys that you currently play with, Jeff and...
Nick, yeah, they've been to many OAR
Okay, cool,
shows,
cool.
man. We used to do it, man.
It's good to hear it's that squad.
It is that squad,
How's
man.
that record coming together, brother?
It's coming.
Okay.
It's coming.
Yeah.
It's slow. It's hard. We're like mid-30s. We got wives and kids and 9 to 5s and
Yeah.
yada yada blah blah. So it's taking its time, but it's coming, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure, how many times have you stepped into a recording facility and waited for a record to be done now at this point in your life? Like, enough times to have very different expectations than what's going on, and just every project's different in that. But,
I know. Yep.
yeah, I think you made a really good point last time we talked about that, about, like, how many people you have working on a project, and how you stay on a straight and narrow when you have 4 to 10 sets of hands reaching at something saying, no, this corner should be smooth, like, no, this corner should be jagged, and all those
hard.
difference in shapes.
Mm-hmm.
How do you kind of initiate conversations about where you see the music going?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think it normally, at least in that context, happens really organically because we're always fixated on it. It's always the thing that's like, okay, like, can we get together on Thursday? And like, that's the thing that kind of brings us together, and we're always trying to carve out time for that very thing. So we're always just naturally working on it. So it's, we're constantly in communication about like, all those things you're talking. Gosh.
Yeah, this bridge, that chorus,
Yeah,
142 in song 6.
Yeah, dude. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
How many songs are on the album?
It could be 12. I think.
That's enough to make you sick.
I mean, we have about 16 right now.
Cool.
That we're gonna finish, and
then make cuts.
Wield it down. Yeah. So I think no less than 10, and probably no more than 12.
Mm-hmm.
And there'll be some interludes and some intros and
Nice.
outros, and little hidden tracks and things like that here and there. But I think we're gonna aim for maybe 12.
Do you write interludes after the project is together and sequenced, or do you like to leave tail on all songs to be kind of replayed?
Well, in this particular project, it could be a few things. It could be like maybe a song that we really like that just didn't make the cut when we grouped, what the album will be when we group those songs together.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe there's just a little part of it that we want to like slip in there somewhere.
And so go back and retrack that part and kind of...
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Or it could be like, it could be a number of things, man. It could be like something, like a part of a song that we cut that we want to just kind of slip in there.
Yeah.
Or it could be like a shadowing or a foretelling of like, if you listen to the album straight through, you might get 30 seconds of track 11, even though you're on track 4.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's sort of loosely, I don't want to use the word like a concept album, but like we do make records with the intention of like, there is a through line with all of the songs, and like from start to finish, it should paint a loose picture to where you can kind of see what the message is.
And does that really come out in the lyrics, or is that a musical?
A little of both, definitely, mostly lyrically, but
Okay. Who's in charge of that in the band?
it's all like 33 and a third, right down the middle.
That's awesome.
We do everything together, and we all write lyrics. We all it took like a solid year of demoing the record before we even started masters, because we would each take like the skeleton and then just go home, and then I would finish the song, keys and synths and strings, and I would fully produce like my vision of what the song would be.
That's awesome.
The other two would do the same. Then we'd all bring it together. We'd all listen, and then we would talk it out, and then we would kind of like see what fits, what doesn't, like what's really the essence of what this song is supposed to be, you know, and then kind of just whittle stuff away, and then the good ideas we keep, the bad ideas we throw away, and maybe we double down on this or that or whatever. But same thing with lyrics, we're all writing lyrics, we're all it's a unique project in that we're all really being heard, and we all have a chance to like really try to create and take chances in a way that you normally wouldn't. You know what I mean? Like there is no other project in my life where I'm writing lyrics or I'm arranging and playing keys, but you're going to hear me playing keys on this album. You're going to hear my string parts. You're going to hear, you know, and vice versa, you know.
Yeah. Did you need that outlet, or was that something that's like, okay, it's here, and might as well try?
I think I do need it, man. I think I do, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. I
Just
think
because,
especially your instrumental stuff that you post, where it's just like, clearly these are just ideas in the bag that this one got pulled out today.
yeah,
But it's brilliant, and it's fun, and it's unencumbered by other people's thoughts or opinions. It's the full flesh, you know?
yeah. Well, so like, I am a type A person, as much as I try not to be.
Yeah,
you
for
know?
such a lax guy, it's like...
Yeah, it's like I do think that I know.
Yeah.
So on to that point, like my own stuff is, you know, something I'm really gonna double down on for that reason, you know. But then also like having a sacred space where people are willing to like honor you as a full being and say, yeah, sure, man, like pick up the guitar.
Yeah.
You know, no, that doesn't happen anywhere else, you know. And obviously, like you should use discretion and like not, you know what I mean. Like I'm not gonna
Time and place, you know.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. But like it's definitely a thing where we want everyone to be heard and like have like freedom in a way that you wouldn't have anywhere else. And it's been a really fruitful project for that reason because everyone is fully involved. It's not like a Trent Reznor deal, you know, where it's like he writes everything. He is Nine Inch Nails, and then you can come along and play the part for a cheeseburger, and if you don't like it, get out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No knock to Trent. Well, I mean, I'm knocking him for that.
Yeah.
I do love he has got beautiful music. But
It's an interesting thought, man, because I think there's a lot of great artists that need full creative control to get it done.
sure.
But then there's the song wants different things than the songwriter wants. And like, I really wonder as you go home and you pour yourself into these non-primary parts of your instrumentation that you toil with, and you change the MIDI and you work so hard, and then you have to go in there and say, if you don't like my kids, let's decapitate it and pull out the guts. You know,
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
like, this is my most precious, you know, besides the literal lives in your world. This is part of your family. It's part of your musical essence, man.
Kill your darlings, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, decapitate. I love that. Yeah, get it.
Because there might be something else inside that you need. You know?
or you just might not be like the guitar player for a reason, right? Like I'm not. So it's like you got to know when to know. But like it is also cool to be able to like work with, a good team that's like, yeah, let's try it.
Yeah.
And if it works, we'll keep it. If it doesn't, it's totally cool. We'll keep on with what we are, and we'll drink another beer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
We'll find a new common ground in this.
Yeah. So it did. So it took, because of taking that route. It took it took a solid year to demo it out and be like, all right, this is what we think it's gonna look like. Knowing that it's gonna change along the way when you actually get to the masters, right? And then you have someone producing your album, you know. There's going to be changes and decisions to make and stuff like that, you know. So
I think that's why a lot of guys want to wear that producer hat. There's so
Sure.
much fun in that role, and there's a lot less weight to move. You know what I mean? It's like it's the guy who supervised the pyramids, not moved the pyramids. You know what I mean? Like he didn't bring in the blocks and shape this ship up. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like for someone like yourself that plays in so many projects too,
Yeah.
for the amount of times that you go in and lend your talent for a certain price and time period to get done, you need something where it's like, I don't care the time it takes, I don't care the amount of rehearsals we do,
That's right.
I'm not doing this any other way besides the way I want to.
That's right. Yeah. And it's one of those things where you're happy to lose money on it if you have to, right? Because it's not about anything else but then exactly what you're talking about, you know.
Yeah. Do you think when it comes time to release this, are you gonna go the normal way of today of just online upload and then some physical copies, or
I doubt there will be physical copies this time. We'll probably, I mean, we haven't talked about it, but I imagine we'll probably just dump it on Spotify and that'll be that, you know.
I keep wondering what's the best way to do well in the digital age while also understanding that there's a great monetary opportunity in your physical copies.
Yeah.
That's I don't know. I think a little more fulfilling as a fan.
Absolutely.
Like give me 6 months to buy the physical, and it's available nowhere else besides
Yes,
right there.
for sure.
So I can have this precious commodity of your
Yes.
work and time.
Yes.
But then you have to worry about someone else uploading your shit, and like,
Yeah.
so you have to have all your copyrights and stuff done and have an upload and release date. And worst case scenario, you have a bunch of copies of something that never sold, and then you got to kind of look at those every day as,
You've got in your closet, you've got a stack of like 1,000
Yeah.
vinyl. Yeah.
And I think it's those moments where you see your financial freedom tied up in bullshit that you thought had value to other people and it doesn't.
Yeah.
That you really have to come to terms with what this is. Like
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years ago, I found a stack of T-shirts with my legal name on it, not my stage name.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, what am I gonna do with these? Like,
Yeah,
how much
yeah.
money do I have sitting around in T-shirts right now? Like $200. Like that blows.
Mm-hmm.
So I sold them. And people bought them, and I was like,
The Matthew Schneider's.
yeah, the Matt Schneider T-shirts. And I was so grateful that.
Do you got any more?
No, I'll make you one
I'll
if
buy
you
one.
want.
I'll buy. Yeah.
But it's something like that where like you feel silly because you didn't move them, and then you come to terms with, okay, I just need to get rid of these, and then you find that process was super fulfilling for me because I found that people were interested in this progression that from where I've came from to where I am today means something to my friends and family who care to fucking listen.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something horrible about a box of your old CDs, but like I think there's a level of authenticity in saying like,
Yeah.
it's not wasted cash until I'm done selling, so I'm not done selling.
That's right, baby. Yeah. Hey, you put them in, they work, right?
For sure.
So you can tell them.
Yeah, man, they'll still spin.
That's right.
Ah.
That's all that matters. Somebody will buy them.
As someone that works hard to gain their financial freedom in
Yeah.
non-musical ways,
Yes.
like, what's your advice for folks that are on that brink of what do I do to pay bills versus what do I do to stay sane?
Well, first of all, you shouldn't take advice from me.
No, you
Let
should take
that
advice
be-
from happy, motivated people. Nick Meehan.
Okay, just saying. Put that disclaimer out there.
They know you're nuts. It's in the description.
Okay,
Like,
good, good,
borderline
good, good.
lunatic.
Man, it's different for every person, right? What motivates me is different what's going to motivate you, you know? For me, I've got a very clear and simple motivation that's given my family the best life possible,
Yeah.
right? So that means I'm willing to do all sorts of things that maybe someone else might not want to do or be willing to do or not need to do, you know? Like if you're 19 or 20 and you're just graduating CCM or whatever, and like you want to play, you want your life to be musical, you can probably live in a broom closet for $20 a month, right? You don't have a mortgage, you don't have a spouse, you might not have you probably don't have kids, right? Your situation's different. It really just depends on your situation, I think. What you want out of life, and that will change. I think that's what I would say. The person you are when you're 20 is not the same person you're gonna be when you're 30.
If you do it right. If you continue to develop and
Yeah.
be introspective and
Yeah, and the same thing hopefully from 30 to 40, you're not going to be the same person. So I think your goals are always going to be fluid and changing. Music will always be a constant in my life. But the most important thing in my life is my wife and my kids, you know, and whatever it takes to give them the best life possible, that's what I'm about. So if that's a 9-to-5 at a corporation, I'm happy to do that. If that's Hugh, I didn't get the Foo Fighters gig, Matt. I don't know if you saw that. I'm sorry about that.
fuck Chris Reese.
But if it is, you know, if it's arena tours with the Foo Fighters, awesome.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is what I'm about, you know, and that's my main motivation. Now, the other things are like trying to be satisfied musically, you know, and additionally, and probably even before that, is like being around good people that I actually love and enjoy being with who make music, you know. I'd rather make terrible music with people whom I love deeply than like make the most killing shit of all time with a couple of pricks that I don't want to be around, you know.
Yeah.
So So for me, it's just. I'm sorry, I'm rambling at this point.
No, I think that you said a lot of great things in there, and I think it's especially for folks that go through musical academia and they come out and they say any gig is a gig and I'll take it.
Yeah.
You find yourself playing with people that don't make you feel better about yourself, and like sometimes those people do great things for the music and it's worth that sacrifice, and sometimes it's the exact opposite. The music's not getting better, you're not getting better, and someone is hurting you with the thing that you thought you loved most in the world.
Well, sure, and listen, man. Again, like I'm nobody from a small town, you know. There are plenty of people who are like doing way more hip shit musically than me. So I'm personally, I'm just grateful. For me, I'm at a place where I'm grateful when I get to play music. When I do, it's not the only thing in my life. It's not my whole identity. You know, if I never played music again in my life after today, I still have a whole life to live, and I'm still me, you know, and I'm still a husband, I'm still a father, I'm still, you know, there's this whole other thing. Most of music is like one of the smallest portions of my life. You know, even though I would love it to be much larger than it really is, the reality is it takes up very little of my day-to-day life, you know. And so what do you do with the rest of that, you know? And I'm always constantly trying to be a better person, work harder, be the best version of me. You know, we've talked about this ad nauseum. And, you know, I just want to bless the people around me to the best of my ability in any situation that I'm in. Hopefully, the older I get, the more musical that gets to be. But if it doesn't, I still got shit to do. And, you know, I think your original question was like something about straddling the line, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think of knowing what's enough for you. And like, I think you stated that very well. Like, especially when it comes to, for so many of us, like people would say, music is my life.
Yeah.
Can music be your life and only be a fraction of the time spent in your week? Yeah. Yeah. Because I think one thing that you really show well and you speak well on is like, your possessiveness of these things in your life is something that you need to loosen the grip of a little bit every day. It's like, I do things so that we can thrive, as in me and my family and the people in my close proximity. And every time that you find yourself gripping at something you think you need, you know, whether it's a job with benefits or this type of gig or this type of attendance at your shows, it's like, loosen the grip and go back to the gratitude, because it's hard to be grasping at what you think you deserve and what you think you need and what you think you want, which more of us are in that category than the other ones. You know, we're held down by all of our wants in life, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, we've talked a bazillion times about you know, how in the past year I had some health challenges, you know. And so for me, getting to wake up, that's enough. You know, like literally when I get to wake up every day, the first thing I do is like, I think, God, thank you so much. Thank you so much that I'm still alive. I get to be a father today. Thank you so much that I get to try to love my wife today. My heart stayed beating the whole night and I'm still alive today. I'm gonna go get this motherfucker. Let's go.
Woo! That could be hype, bro. One time you said, air in your lungs. It's the greatest blessing you got right now, man. I was like, that's heavy.
It is.
How much, you know, you're someone that found their faith on their own through the journey of life. And a lot of people get issued a faith by their family, which there's plenty of ways that can go good or bad.
Sure.
But talk about the ways that finding a spirituality changed you and to continue to change you.
Yeah. I think the truth. So I'll just say for me that I love Jesus. Okay. To me, Jesus is, not only was he a historical, factual, real person that really lived, like you can actually go to Israel and put your hand in the hole where his cross was, where they nailed him to a cross. You can go do that. Okay, he was a real historical person, and I'm not gonna. Anyway,
Go on whatever tangents you want, brother.
Okay,
no
okay,
one's
okay.
gonna mind it. I think people need to hear of people that are well rooted in their faiths to feel the permission to
Yeah.
find those roots on their own.
Yeah.
Because many of us don't feel deeply rooted in this life we live when we don't have that person to be grateful for in the same
Sure.
way that people feel grateful towards God or whatever you need to call the being that has blessed you. You know.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks for that permission. That's one of my favorite things about you is just the way you invite everyone,
Thanks, brother.
regardless of whatever it is. You bring everyone together and really hear people for who they are, and really facilitate an environment where people feel like they are loved and can be authentically themselves and like really share the real shit, man.
Thanks, brother.
So props to you.
It's because I have bad ideas and I don't word them well, so I get other people talking about their shit. You know what I'm saying? Give me that bourbon.
That's right, baby.
any more of this?
Yes, sir.
Cool.
But,
Again,
yeah,
shout out to Seth. A wonderful birthday present. You are a wild motherfucker, Seth.
But yeah, so for me, like the person Jesus is who he says he is, you know, and that means he is the author and the creator of the entire universe. Dig? And so one of the things that he said to his followers while they were alive was that he said this real simple thing, which is the answer to your question. He said, "You didn't choose me. I chose you."
Ooh.
And that's my story. I didn't choose him. You know, he's chosen me. You know, he created me. He knew me before the foundations of the universe. You know, he called me. My name in Gaelic, Nicholas, means victory for the people. He chose that for me. You know, that means the calling of my life is pretty significant. You know, he did that for me. I didn't do that for me. You know, I didn't make my heart's not beating right now of my own accord. I'm not telling it to do that. He's allowing me to live. He has brought me into this universe because he loves me, because there's something he wants me to do. And ultimately that's point people to him for the goodness of who he is. So yeah, he chose me, man. That's the answer.
Well, and it's a tough thing to steer people towards that calling that you have picked up in that. And I think there's so many people in life that are struggling right now with, I think one of the central things that we all long for is companionship. And in the way that I was brought up around faith, it's like you have never been alone, you will never be alone, because God is the Alpha and the Omega. He is everywhere, you know. Christ is a companion for you on the worst and the best, and he knows that you'll be seen through this. And that kind of comfort quiets a lot of the existential that keeps a lot of people up at night.
Yeah.
And I feel for people that have not yet seen an opportunity to answer that call or found the right verbiage to express or interact with God in that way. But it's so weird as we watch the world of science try to unravel this beautiful cosmos when it's like, no, we're just turning another page to see what's already been done unto us. It's like it's so miraculous that any of us are here. And you need that answer. It's not like we could have man-made this thing. There's no chance.
Yeah, and science actually points to the existence of God. It doesn't take away,
Yeah.
you know, which could be like a whole other thing that many people do much better than I do. But like when you look at light and you look at, you know, molecules, and you look, like you've probably heard of like the Fibonacci sequence, and you look at things in nature and like
the God particle and whatnot. Where it's
yes, yeah, exactly. And even when you look at the Bible itself, and you look at like Hebrew numbers and nomenclature and things, they're all pointing towards something, you know, that everything that exists points towards something, this one thing, you know, which is Christ. You know, it's absolutely mind-blowing, dude. You know?
It is, man. And I think, you know, as someone that grew up in like I think all denominations of faith are particular because those denominations tend to be man-made and they come with problems. And it's like, and if we aren't constantly trying to question our own pursuits and make sure that these things are as clean and understanding as possible, then you're going to end up thinking that you can compete with this all knowing. It's like one of the greatest things I hear in the pursuit of art is being grateful to the muse. And it's like that's just another phrase for the gift that is sent you, been sent to you through your medium. To make beautiful art is to interact with God.
Yeah.
It is to listen to Christ. It's like there's such a great opportunity there to not be so possessive of your own ideas in life, but you don't get that relief without a faith, without having that person to look at.
Well, you can live a very difficult and painful life without a savior. It's possible. People do it every day.
Yeah.
I just personally wouldn't recommend it. And as far as art goes, I should also say, like, I believe that the Word of God is true, absolute, all parts of it, even if not all of it makes sense to me, or if I don't even if I'm bothered by a part of it, it doesn't mean it's not true. You know what I mean? Like, there's something. God is sovereign above me, which means any opinion I have about what He says is reality is just my terrible opinion. Okay,
Which is great. You get a chance to have it.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I can have opinions about whatever I can have any opinion I want about what God says, but it doesn't matter.
The free will opportunity is a really cool play on the game Monopoly. You know what I mean? Like it
is, but at the end of the day, like, whatever He says goes, because He's God and I'm not.
For sure.
I don't really think we stop and really think about what the word God actually means. You know what I mean? Like, how massive and beyond our human comprehension, how infinitely sovereign and powerful a God actually is to us. Mm-hmm. But in His kindness, He doesn't rule over us in some authoritarianship. He's not a mean kid on an anthill who smites you with a magnifying glass.
This ain't Thor coming down and he's like, I might help you out, but I might get your wife pregnant. You know what I mean? Like,
But so anyway, all I was saying there was, like, I believe Scripture, and because you were talking about the gift of the muse and the gift of interacting with art, and just one simple verse in the Bible is that every good gift comes from the Father, right? Which means music came from God. Mm-hmm. The opportunity for me to get to interact with music, that's a gift from God. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. My wife, whom is the most beautiful creature in the universe to me, whom I muse after and try to, write music about, that's a beautiful gift from God. You know what I mean?
Well, and I think Amber's such a wonderful person, and I've only gotten to know her as a friend of a friend. It's like, this is clearly your person, but I don't know her as closely as many people would. But your faith lives are so intertwined.
Oh yeah.
And I think when it comes to partners of the fullest extent, especially your life partner, having this character between that is all loving and on both sides and all knowing and ready to help us proceed. It's like the reason that so many folks are going to end up, calling it quits on a marriage or whatnot is because there is no all loving in between that is there for us both. It is you and I, and quickly those lines get redivided in life. That's very tough, man.
Yeah, say it again, Matt, because you're 1,000% right.
When I know nothing about it yet, I'm on track to be married, and Emily and I share a faith, but we also share our own thoughts on God and whatnot. It's like, and you need to really be vulnerable with your partner about those things.
Absolutely.
Because it's such a gift to be bound together by the Spirit, not the law. The law is fickle, and life is temporary, and possessions are pretty much alimony. Have a garage sale. You're gonna need more cash than that.
And listen, now you're preaching, Matt. Yeah, don't start preaching, Matt. You're gonna preach up here. You're absolutely right, man. That principle of the threefold cord, the threefold cord. It's like, it's having that and. I'm wholeheartedly convinced that that's what it takes if you want to go the distance, because ask my wife, she'll tell you, like, She's clearly she is the if there's anything good in my household, it's because of her. It's not because of me. Okay.
No, man, you guys build a beautiful home together. You know, you
Uh,
do. You also make beautiful kids. Okay.
Well, I didn't do much. She grew. She is.
You did the
one,
funnest part, Nick. Come on, we.
Yeah. But the work. She grew our beautiful human, not me.
Yeah. Isn't that so unfathomable though? Where it's like
so absurd.
try to give science a couple thousand years to without people.
Yeah.
Make a baby that's going to make it 100 years and be able to battle disease and optimize itself. It's like, again, air in the lungs is such a miraculous thing. To have a baby come out and take a fresh breath of that air, it's like, I can't imagine the way it resets your clock and makes you feel like such a novice in life.
There was nothing like it, dude. Oh my God, it is so it's baffling. It is there is not a second that goes by where you're just not like, what in the world? You know, the immensity and the enormity and the beauty of God only becomes more evident every single day that you're a parent, because you're just become more and more clear. You're like, what the fuck is life? Like, what is this? You know, how could I be given such a beautiful thing? You know, like, it's, you know, and then you, Matt, I could talk about my kid, my wife, for God.
As long as you need to, it seems. Well, and I think what you just said there is so interesting. Like, I think the reason, you know, God's always referred to us the fathers, because parenting is kind of the closest we get to understanding of, like,
Absolutely.
it seems like a parent's interest in bettering the world for the sake of their child is far stronger than any individual just trying to better the world for their own sake of enjoying it. And
Absolutely.
the great creator, you know, to give us the opportunity to create, it's like, that's where we start to see ourselves as a bit of a mirror.
Absolutely. So, I don't know if you're not turned on to. Do you know John Mark McMillan?
No.
Do you know Josh Garrels?
No.
Okay.
Get me hip.
I normally try not to like do this,
I'm open to it, Nick.
but you got to check these two out, man. Especially like if anyone is ever on the hunt for like something that's like not super cheesy, corny, like loud K-Love Christian, like, you know what I mean, like lame, like this shit's terrible.
There's a lot of things in that category, you know.
Yeah.
Because faith is very monetizable, and there's a lot of watered down faith that tries to sell to people, and it has great intentions, but when it hits it on the head, like, you're recommending these authors.
These are songwriters.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's very indie. Like, it is the opposite of anything that you've ever heard that's considered like Christian music, because it you wouldn't even know unless you live a life of faith. You know, well, you listen to the stuff, you would have no idea. And it's super well done and just the deepest, most profound lyrics ever. But you said the reason I brought it up is definitely check them out because it's worth your time. But you said it's like a mirror. And they have this song called Magic Mirror. And the idea is like, yeah, when I look at you, this brand new thing that just came out into life, not only do I see myself in you because I came from you, but I also see the Father in a way that I never have, because now I understand how deeply he loves me the same way that I love this thing. You know, and like as I've been going through parenting, you know, I just see more and more and more of him. I understand him more because of the way that I interact with my child, you know, and it's like everyone who's like a believer and you have kids, you're like, yeah, duh, like I'm not saying anything new or profound here. This is like common sense. But when you go through it the first time, it's profound for you, you know. And like really getting to understand, like, no, he really loves me this deeply. He's this patient with me for a reason. You know, like he wants every part of my life to be as good as it can be. You know, like he loves me. Like there was nothing I wouldn't do. I'll put it to you like this, man. I'll just say one thing and then I'll try to stop rambling.
You're fine.
So God had this choice, right? And the choice was this: once the fall of man happened, it's like, do I separate myself from all of this beautiful thing that I created for simply the purpose of wanting to be enjoyed? He created us because he wants relationship, right? He wants to love us, and he wants us to love him so deeply, the way that I love my child. You know, my child has just gotten old enough to where he's starting to demonstrate physical affection to me, where he'll bring me a book and he wants to sit in my lap and read or watch Paw Patrol or whatever. And the only thing I want in life is that very thing. You know, then I'm like, fuck the Foo Fighters tour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's why we exist, right? But he has this choice during the fall of man, which is like, okay, well, do I separate myself forever or do I rescue them? The rescue is going to cost a whole lot, right? Which is the life of Christ, right? He's going to love us so much that he's gonna sacrifice his son brutally, right? He's gonna die a brutal death. I don't think we really talk about what it took just to get to the point of death very much for Christ.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he was beaten, spit on, and scoffed at, and a crown of thorns nailed into his head, and he took 49 lashes, which is the only human being who's ever gone that long and still lived. And then he had to carry this heavy cross all the way up Golgotha, nailed to the cross, choking on his own blood, dehydrating, swaying in the wind, sun, all this shit, right? I'm getting there. I'm gonna land this plane, baby. If I were ever given the choice between this whole world and my son, this whole world, I would choose my son every single time.
Yeah.
There was nothing in this universe worth anything more to me than my son. Whole world will die every time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Judah is my whole fucking world, dude. So think about how much God, like, people don't really, you don't understand how much he loves us. You know, you live your whole life. People who faithfully want to follow him live their whole life, and you'll, at the end of it, even if you've sought him with all of your might faithfully, you'll still never know. Like, our human capacity to be able to quantify how much he loves us, we can't fucking do it.
Yeah. When I think, like, you know, the good book, it's there for you for a reason, and you know, you and I differ on certain aspects of our faith belief, but I think the reason the book is there is to try to quantify the magnitude that you're speaking of, and like,
Yeah.
and sometimes the magnitude of pain is one of the things that speaks truest to us, and that's one of the most brutal and sorrowful stories that humanity has ever been told. And then if you really double down and say, no, this was a literal person. This is not a story that's trying to make me pull back on this. And, you know, and personally, I sometimes struggle with even that as someone that's grown up in the Catholic faith, and sometimes it comes down to what you've been told to think and what you do think.
Sure.
And you get more comfortable with admitting that you're not on one side or the other as much as you yearn to understand the full thing.
And that's the realest shit you can do, by the way.
Yeah.
It's just honestly say, I don't know. Or, nah, fuck that. Mm-hmm. I reject that.
And if you're willing to step up to bat with it, too, to entertain the question, you know, we all have things that not only do we disagree on, that we have a hard time believing. And having good friends that want to have those conversations with you and get heated, like, you and I have gotten heated at points in time about things that don't involve our faith. You know, a story that I tell very fondly of you is when you came up and you said, Matt, when are you going to be a good dude and ask that girl to marry you? And I was like, thank God someone asked. You know, because the question was lingering. It's like, which way am I going to tilt on the scale? And then someone pushed me off the diving board, and I decided that's time to swim, baby. It's like,
baby.
And there's something beautiful about that. But I think in the questioning of your faith, it's like one day you're going to be sitting on a bed with your last 5 breaths to give. Mm-hmm. So there's not a lot of time to think about it. So to entertain it in between now and then is kind of an important thing. So you can choose to go into the next part of life as a believer in something.
That's right.
I greatly feel for people that go into the unknown with no hope. It's like hope is such a gift that we get from the book and that we get from God. And I grew up under the belief of the Trinity, that God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit are of one being, but they're three separate entities
Yeah.
because the characters have purpose in the book, and you need to be
Absolutely.
able to understand the way these things interact with you. And
That's right.
like I said before, so many people are so lonely in life. They yearn for that companionship and that acceptance and that eternal blissful love that comes from a parent. And I think without a parent, people have a hard time imagining that because they've never experienced it.
Absolutely.
But you see the vehicle of faiths and religion, and if you can get to just that simple conclusion that you will never be alone, you are here until you are not, and you were here for a reason. It's like those are such scary propositions in life, man. And there's great opportunities like parenting and creating and just existing to appreciate those opportunities.
It's all beautiful, man.
Yeah,
Life is a beautiful thing.
it is, man. And
It is a good thing to have it. Good thing to be able to wake up and live it. It's such a gift, man.
And also when you put time into your gifts, it's like the parable of the talents. It's like
That's right.
one guy buried these, the other one went investing. This is not a stark market appeal coming from the good book. No, this is about you taking any disposition you have. It's like, if you have a shitty Tuesday, time to make it a great Thursday. Can you turn this around in 2 days for the love of God? Like,
That's
for
right.
the love of God, can you make
literally.
something special of it?
Quite literally.
And when you sit back behind your kit, or I get a chance from my six strings to smile and show breath in the lungs and a love for life, there's something so healthy and kind about that, man.
And a thought that I just had, back to a question you asked a long time ago, where I poorly maybe didn't even give any
Time
advice.
to rehash it.
yeah, right. What is that? Like, think about that more. Like, think less about success, whatever that means to you, and like wherever you're trying to go, and like build the thing. I know we're all trying to build the thing and do the thing, and obviously I'm not doing that very well, right? No. But like, I think that ultimately you could build the thing and be unfulfilled, and you can spend your whole life getting all the gigs, doing all this stuff, running around, trying to make a buck, doing this, doing that, understand we all got to hustle, but like, you can just have, if you can really do it, I would say try to limit putting yourself in those positions where they don't bring you any joy. Right?
Know yourself better than to choose these fickle pursuits. Like,
if you gotta do it we're all gonna do it here and there, right? But if that's the norm, maybe we try to find something that's like, well, Amber and I talk about it often. It's like, let's try to find something that's like super fulfilling, so that way, if you're gonna be away from your family, if you're gonna be on the road, if it's going to cost you something, you're around people you love, you're making good music, you're making good money, or some combination of them, but if you can do it with gratitude, and you're in a space with people who love life, and you can like look out on maybe you're playing Joe Blow's Bar and Grill and it's fucking lame, but there's a beautiful sunset and you get a bar tab.
Yeah.
Like, maybe you're like, you know what? This ain't so bad.
Dude, I could
This is
only
a good
imagine
thing,
telling
man.
people like, yeah, I'm at Joe Blow's Friday through Saturday, Sunday, all weekend, baby. And they're like, Joe Blow's, eh?
Yeah. No, you know what I'm saying.
I
Yeah.
totally get you, man. I think, like you said,
I got to remind myself all the time. Because I'll be bitching when I'm dragging my drums through the kitchen on the third floor. And like,
Dude,
blah, 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 blah. Yeah, my kid ate ice cream for the first time the other night, and I was gone, and I missed that, and I was upset about it, or like, he went to the horse races and saw a horse in real life and pet a horse for the first time, and I missed it, and like,
Yeah.
obviously I'm not Taylor Hawkins, I'm not like on some giant tour,
Yeah.
I'm just a hustling schmuck around town, but I'm still gone a lot,
Dude, that's a great name right there. Hustling Schmucks, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
baby.
Like, that's heavy. But there's also something about these, kids are at least from what I've watched my parents go through, I'm watching my siblings go through, and I know I'm going to go through it myself. Kids are the ultimate reminder of, like, you don't own this or the experience. Like, just because you want to grip at being there for every first for your son doesn't mean you get to have those things. And one day, there's going to be the first of taking off on a life of their own, and
That's right.
you don't get to make that call.
That's right.
And that's a beautiful but awful, longing, lonesome thing to learn, because you'd like to think that when you have your kids that you're making the people that are going to be your best friends in life.
Yeah.
And how many people watch their kids move across the country or go do something wilder? Or God forbid, the people that lose their kids before they get to see them enjoy the adulthood that they do. Like, that seems like the heaviest, man.
Which brings me to another point of advice. What you should do is just edit this to like all of my
Nick's 5 points.
Yes, exactly. If you're gonna be away, make it be for a good fucking reason. If you have kids, if you have a family, if that, every family's different. So I should, you might be in a space where it's all cool. For me, my ultimate goal is to like make as much money as possible with as little effort as possible. So I'm home the most, because I don't want to miss those things.
Yeah.
Those are the most important things that are going to happen in my life. So I want to be there as much as possible. So if I'm going to be away, it better be for something fucking important. It better be rewarding. Like it better pay, or it better be a good reason. Like I'm not just going to take a gig to take a gig. You know what I mean? Like, even if I love the people, like if it's just going to be like, there needs to be like, you're going to help me buy my kid shoes or diapers, or save for our college fund, or like, Matt's CD release, or like it needs to be, for me at this point in my life, like if, I'm trying to go for quality over quantity if and when I can.
Yeah.
Sometimes I straight up just need to grab the cash.
Yeah.
Because my wife's a full-time stay-at-home mom. I'm the sole breadwinner. So sometimes it's like, right, country music, let's do it.
Totally. Well, and your name has earned you that reputation by showing up and doing the gig lovingly, even if you hate the load and you hate the music. And it's Kevin McClellan said it really well. If a gig needs 3 things: good music, a good hang, and good pay. If I can get 2 out of the 3, I should be okay. If I only get 1 out of 3, I ain't taking the gig. If it's 0 for 3, quit calling me, and that's okay too. Like,
totally.
One thing that's it's interesting when you talk about bands where it's split down the middle, 33, and then someone like myself who does a solo project where I have this loving community of guys that come in my life. Like I look at someone like Josh Jessen, where I was like, what a great privilege and great learning opportunity. And boy, do I wish he was still playing with us, but he's on to bigger and better things, or he's in a new place. And it's like, and the same will probably go for you and for John and Jamarco. It's like, when someone steps in to have your back, to serve you like a brother and like a fellow creation of something that's really important in this life, just by a geographical boundary, you and I end up in each other's life, and I trust you to hold one end of the tightrope while I go out walking and hope for the best. It's like, that reminds me of one of the funniest things you and I have ever had, which is like a studio day where we were listening to a song we were working on, and you're like, man, I've never known what you've said there, and I always assumed the worst, so I didn't ask because I didn't want to support play behind that message. Yeah. But I'm still there. It's like I was so touched that you would support me saying something awful just because you like me as a friend, and you're like, and just don't tell me. It's like, but I wasn't saying that necessarily.
No, thank God. Yeah. Thank God you weren't saying what I thought you were saying.
And that's a testament to my mumbling. But like, again, when you find people that feel fulfilled around you in a creative venture that's like, again, it's not mine. It's a gift of the muse. It's a gift of God that someone put an instrument in my hand, gave me the lessons to get the know-how, and then someone keeps sending me these songs, and I need to relay as best as I can, as honestly as I can. And I bring them to guys that are straight killers like yourself, and I say, let's fix this. Let's pull up the bad nails that are bent and the boards that are rotting out, and let's build a home for people to go out in. It's like, what is 2112 besides an hour and a half of space away from that reality, and you go on the epic tale that they've written you?
For sure. And the flip side of that same coin is like, if you are a person who's trying to figure out how to do this, which I still am, right? But one thing that's probably the most important thing to me is I know that you trust me with this gift. You know, like you've hired me not just to be like, yes, I might be, I should be competent at my craft, but like I want to love and serve you and make that known. Like you should feel that. You know what I mean? Like specifically from my instrument, like you should know, like Nick's got my back. You know, this is going to be not just, you know, I'm not just punching the clock, or I'm not just up here trying to like show whatever I can do for me or attract attention to me, but like not only will I love and serve and protect you, but like I believe in it, and I'm building it with you. I'm building that house with you. It's this, not just a transactional, I show up for money and see, like it's not a prostitute thing. It's like, no,
Yeah.
I love this person. I believe in him. I believe in his music. He's invited me into that space, which is a sacred space. And this is where I am today. This is the opportunity I have today. What is the best I can do to make him shine, you know, lift him up, you know?
Yeah.
So
I mean, you've probably been in the band 5 years now. It's like, and initially, you know, what is a gig besides it's a nameless call, and you go out there and you try your best. But when you end up around people that hopefully reciprocate a style of living that you enjoy, there's something so special to be had, man. And I think in our band, the thing that I found most fulfilling is the non-musical parts of these people, because they got the job on their musical inclinations. Like,
Sure.
it's your competence to do the job has been clearly proven, but it's the way that we converse. Once the roof is on, that we
Yes.
start having some fun. John's kicking out
Yes.
space for another window on the top floor. It's like
Yes.
people do weird things with these moments in time.
yeah.
But then, you know, for someone like myself, again, who's doing a solo artist thing, but I have a wonderful band in my life,
Yeah.
if someone wants to tell me about how good my set was, I need to back up mentally and make sure I thank, you know, God for putting him there and the guys for showing up. You know, like there's a line of command before you can take credit for the fruit that's being sown here, because it didn't just wake up and be ready to harvest. You know, these things
Sure.
weren't just, you know, falling out ready to go. This is time spent together, man.
Yeah, people should realize, like, if you're trying to lead a thing and do your thing, you should realize, like, there are people who have dedicated their lives to a certain skill set, and they're there to, you know, lift you up, and that should be honored. You do that super well, but I should say, people should also know that, like, I just want to call out, like, on the internet, since we're doing this, like, you fucking grind your ass off.
Thanks, brother.
And none of this, no, I wouldn't have a gig if it weren't, none of us would have a gig if it weren't for you. And like, you are, you're one of the hardest working people I know. And that's one of the things I respect most about you and love most about you, is like, it's not just that you're talent. I think a lot of people think just like, oh, you're super talented, or that guy's super talented. No. It's like, yeah, but this guy is grinding his dick off. That's why he's successful. And I see so many people whom I love dearly, and they just don't have the same kind of work ethic. And they're like, well, I just don't understand. It's like, well, you should look at Matt. You should look at people who are grinding their dick off and seeing what it takes to really do this at the highest level possible. You know, like, people are losing sleep. You know, they're like, you sleep less, like you sacrifice for this, you know, because you love it, you know, and like,
Yeah.
that matters, you know.
And I think, like you said, your gratitude as you start to push harder on these things is important. It's like, there's no point at getting to the top if you did it just for you. It is such a lonely place. And I don't feel like I'm at the top of anything. I appreciate you saying those things, because I do feel like I bust my ass a lot of days, and I hope one day I have something to show for it. But I feel so fortunate to be in the position I am. It's like, even down to the discipline that's been granted for me to realize and try to fulfill in my life, that comes from two great parents that are goddamn maniacs at being their best.
Yes.
And I'm learning more and more as a young man that when you take care of yourself, and you really take care of yourself. You evaluate what are the things that bring me personal value and affirmation, that make me feel like the man that I want to be. What are the things that give me the freedoms that I need to have to be able to go out and navigate this world?
Yeah.
And then what are the things that educate me to do better with those things? Like,
Yeah.
cool. So I have 3 main categories I'm trying to hold on to. It's my education, it's my discipline, and it's my disposition. Like, I'm lucky enough to be here.
Yeah.
Those things should grow over a lifetime, but where they grow to, that is only up to the big man. You know, it's like, and I also, being brought up in the Catholic faith, was always taught that God sees life on time as a medium. You can look at any point in time on there. It's like, as I get older, I start to realize that our sense of what's going on right now gets so lost in our expectations of what has happened and what will happen. We're always trying to play the guessing game and get ahead in life. It's like, you are one place for one point in time, and that's it. So if you're not enjoying it, if you're not doing something with it,
so good, man.
it blows. You know, like you
So
said, like
good.
life can be a really shitty case to make unless you have your alpha and omega figured out. You know, build
That's good shit, man. There's we view time chronologically, right? But God views time out because he exists outside of time. He views time in kairos, right? There's chronos, which is a linear for us, start, end, and then there's kairos, which is where he can, like, sort of like
that's so fascinating.
like break in and be like, yo, hey, this is it's 3 dimension. There's this whole other thing. There's this whole thing, and all you have capacity for is this straight line.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's interesting, man. Kairos is the term for a retreat that Moeller High School, Mount Notre Dame, St. X, they all put these kids through.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the first times in your high school experience where you really get to be vulnerable as a person and tell about
That's awesome.
the greatest fall in concrete.
Like a weekend thing?
Yeah, it's a weekend thing. And I'd say for most of my friends I interacted on that with, it was one of the most powerful experiences for them.
Yeah.
And I took a ton from it, but I also have I have family that's into their faith life, that's into this resonant frequency of really living. So I'd like to think that I got a taste of that as a young man, and this was a very fulfilling part of it that a lot of high school kids deserve to have. But it's hilarious to hear that word as something that almost describes like the latitude to the longitude of life.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a great way of putting it. Yeah.
And to think that there's things outside of our cosmos and our universe. It's like you like to think that the universe is ever expanding. It's like the creator is ever expanding. You know, you and I have talked about how, you know, we're supposed to be made in God's image. It's like, I'd imagine that God's image is this whole being, you know, it's every star and every comet, and down to the ants that we are, and down to the ants that sit under our feet. It's like we are so bestowed by this entity to have everything and anything that you could ever imagine. You'll never get to reach that in a lifetime. That's why at some point God says, you know, your sentience, you come back here and leave that bag back there. We're going to use that for something else now. It's like this planet is a big old compost pile, and we just keep turning into the next best thing, man.
Yeah, man. Like, something that I think about, which is like super perplexing and equally exciting to me, is the fact that we get a new body in heaven. You know?
Interesting.
Yeah, we get a new. So, like, when the Lord returns, he's going to destroy the heavens and the earth. The earth will be destroyed. The heavens will also be destroyed. Our bodies will be destroyed. But those of us that are raised in him will have, like, a new body.
And this is the book of Revelations.
Yeah.
And what would you just? I know you don't have a religious faith necessarily. You have your own spirituality, your own religion, but it's not like you're a Catholic.
I'd be a non-denominational, I suppose.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I think that book has so much confusion for so many people. Like I was always taught as a young Catholic, like your earthly body will be reunited with your spiritual being. At the age of 33, which is what Christ died at. And I always thought that was very particular. And for a lot of...
I've never heard that.
Yeah, and for a lot of for a lot of Catholics, that explains a lot of the concerns with your burial. That's why you get buried with your bling and whatnot. It's like because they want you to come back stunting in heaven. That's why you get embalmed, because you want the body to last, so you can be reunited with it. And I'm always like, what about someone who lost an appendage or whatnot? It's like,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily believe in that, and I'm probably not getting it exactly right for what Catholicism believes.
Sure.
But it's just so fascinating the way that, again, we get possessive about these things.
Yeah.
That this is not my skin bag. You know, this is just part of the entity that keeps twirling around, and that's why I'm so impressed just to be a minuscule part of the greatest creation, and we get to be together in that, man.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, what is better? What's better than what we're doing right now?
I like my parents' basement a lot, dude. Every time I hear,
I wanted to shout out the Schneider parents,
dude, the greatest that there ever will be. Mary Carol and Phil, amazing folks.
I fucking love them so much, man.
Yeah, man.
They're fucking great.
You know, one thing that I've struggled with in adult life is, like, if you get brought up in a really solid family and you feel like you've been given the world of opportunity and belief and trust in you,
Sure.
you hope that you can return that favor to your children.
Yeah.
I have no idea how I could ever scratch the surface of that. And I think that's part of what I need to cross the threshold of as I get closer to having my own kids. I know it won't be spitting image, but cook it down to things that are achievable, because it's been my everything. I felt like the luckiest kid that there could ever be, you know, for most of my life.
Yeah.
Because of those two.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the difference is that you recognize that, right? Like most people don't. Most people who would be in a similar situation would not, but you already do. So you're already ahead of everybody. You'll be fine, man.
I think it depends on what you're grateful for, though. I think there's a lot of, like, kids that come from a financial place where they don't have to worry, but they don't get the emotional side of it.
Sure.
Or they got the emotional side of it, but they didn't have the spiritual side. Or they got the spiritual side and they never got the career push. It's like, I can't think of a place that I came up lacking. Now, I am the baby of 4 kids, and I've never really, until recently, thought about how lucky that spot is, where your parents have all this time, the capacity of watching over 4 kids just to pour into being around you. It's like your capacity of caring for your one child versus now your 2 children. It's like, do you split that time, or does your heart grow like the Grinch? You know, do you start just expanding and finding?
They say that happens. We'll see. Yeah. We'll do another one of these in a couple months, and we'll see, man. Shit, I don't know. I do think there's a point of diminishing returns.
19 and counting, or are you going to say that?
No, I'm just going to say, I think if you have too many kids, man, but hey.
What a weird thought, though, where it's like, if you used to have 50 acres, you're going to have 10 kids to work those 50 acres. Like, our need to have large families is so different.
Yeah.
I mean, during your mission trips, you went to more rural parts of, was it India that you went to?
India and South Africa, yeah.
You know, your kids are a little more utilitarian than this part of the world.
Oh, yeah.
It's very fascinating to talk to parents of large litters of families and how your kids raise your other kids, and that disposition's such a mind-boggling change.
Man, it is. Like, for me, the whole thing is just a journey of, like, what's funny is, like, I've been such an easygoing person until I had a child. And then I was just like, you know, now it's just like, I'm like, now I, like, want to vet the parent and the child, and I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, does your child bully? If your child pushes my child, I'm gonna kick you and your child in the face. You know, I have to like release him into the world and like let him climb the slide and meet a new friend. But I'm also like, I'm mugging the parent, like. So like,
never thought about it. I've never thought about that, dude.
You know what I mean? Like, I'll
yeah. One of my favorite yogic teachings is the health of the muscle depends on the ability to contract and relax.
Okay.
When you have chronic pains, it's like that's an overly contracted muscle that's sitting there.
Yeah.
When you don't have enough musculature to maintain and you're overly flexible, then you're having issues on that side. It's like,
sure,
for so much of life up until your son comes along, it is I'm just lax. I have no care.
Yeah, baby, it's
And then the health of the muscle shows, and it's like now I am the stress ball, and I have to figure out how to do exactly. It's like you got that weird vein muscle down in the neck. That's a
Why
tough
is your
thing to
eye
unpack.
twitching, dog? It's 9 in the morning. It's like it's just a slide. I'm like, no, I'll fucking slip. Whoops.
Do you think that it's an animal instinct to some extent?
Yeah.
Do you think that's part of the reason you yearn for your competitive outreach with boxing again?
I think so. I mean, that's really like a health thing for me personally, and I just think that like when I engage in that, I'm a more physically healthy person, but I'm a more healthy I'm more emotionally healthy. I'm more mentally healthy, and I'm more spiritually healthy. It's one of the like rare things where I feel like all of my capitals are equally aligned in one activity, and I feel like I'm rewarded in each of them in such a like equally. Does that make sense? You know what I'm trying to say?
It's like your whole being gets taken up by that.
In the one thing,
Yeah.
And so it's just me. I just feel like I'm a better husband when I do it, and I'm a better father when I do it because I'm less irritable, or I'm less. I don't have as much hostility built up. I'm more patient. You know, like I'm watching my diet, right? Like I'm probably not eating brownies and bourbon for breakfast if I have a fight coming up, right? You know what I mean?
What were those old bad brownies from Little Debbie's? What was the name of those?
That shit's amazing.
They were
What are you talking-
disgusting, bro.
Oh my god.
Bro, I have a mother that's she used to make wedding cakes in
what do
high
they
school.
call
That was her
them?
career. Like she can.
Brownie bites.
Okay, brownie bites. Oh,
Oh my god, I could eat 100,000 of them right now.
it tastes more like the plastic than the container does. It's made of plastic. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't care. I just
okay, so maybe you do need an athletic outlet.
I do see. But yeah, no, and you know, there's also like the creative. It's beautiful to me. It's kind of like hockey or soccer, or like, you know, there's an improvisational aspect. You know, there's so much of it that overlaps. I guess talking to you, like music, there's so much overlap. There's like a creative and improvisational aspect, and there's a very personal signature style to how does your body work naturally? What's your stature like? How does your mind work? How does your mind like how does your mind and your body work together? Like what suits you best? Like are you like would it be advantageous for you to like focus on like a Russian style or like a Mexican style, or like should you learn like the Philly shell? Like there's so many just different things that you can apply like in a moment. And then there's like the whole mind aspect of like just enduring suffering and learning how to like discipline your mind, discipline your body, go through things that you never thought you could go through. Maintaining composure when you think when your brain is telling you panic. You need to panic right now because you're being physically assaulted. Like you know, gaining control over your mind. There's so many levels. Like there's
checking out a fight or flight's a really trippy thing. I don't know if I'm prepared for that in any way, shape, or form. And like, it's really only combat sports that you get that in.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a beautiful thing to go through, man.
I think basketball has that improvisational jazz aspect too, where it's like, here's our form. Like we're calling out 5. Here's the form. You need to react to 5 other guys. But I also I think about this a lot in our gigging life, where it's like I have active thought tasks and I have passive thought tasks.
Totally.
Like I can engage a song and send it and be thinking about something totally different.
Yeah.
There's something about another guy with his hands up in front of you that's saying like, oh, I'm trying to put this person unconscious. That says this is an active process. Like there's only one thing to think about. And I think when folks don't have an outlet that demands their entire active being, that's when you start to get lethargic and you start to get existential and you start to kind of hollow out the shell. Versus like if I spend an hour in there pushing myself, you find that there's a new glass ceiling. And you're going to push through that.
Absolutely.
But some people need great threat.
That's addictive, too, to realize, like, okay, these are my skills today. And then here's what I learned today.
Mm-hmm.
And then either next week or tomorrow or whatever, we're going to drill those same things that we just learned today. And we're going to apply, like, there's such a concrete, at least to me, part of the reason I'm attracted to it is, like, with something like that's so subjective, like music or art, any art form, it's so subjective. Sometimes it's hard to, like, measure improvement, upward trajectory. You kind of you spin your wheels a little bit, you get in your head all of this. It's like really clear whether you're getting your ass beat or not, and why.
It's like super clear if you're winning a fight or not.
Yes,
that's such a funny point to make.
No, but just for me, just the way I'm wired, it's like super helpful to be like, oh, okay, like I could not do anything against this thing. And then you talk to the guy afterward, and like he's like some 55-year-old English dude or whatever, and he's like a super fucking sweetheart, and he like breaks down the whole thing like.
That's lovely.
The combat sports community is so, like, endearing and so fucking sweet. Like, there's really lovely people. Like, I think most people think it's this barbaric thing where you're in there and you're just trying to fucking murder each other, and you're really not.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing is it's martial arts, right? So there is an artistic component to it, right?
Yeah.
And you're testing your skills against one another, and then trying to see how you can employ an artistic interpretation of it and interact with one another in such a way. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, and like competition's gonna sharpen the sword, but like dire competition, like things that have consequences,
Yes.
inevitably have more weight. And like you talked about, like someone turning around and walking through what and why, like you're much more susceptible to accepting what they're talking about if you've already realized that defeat is here. Like folks that walk away from bad shows saying they did great aren't gonna get better.
Oh no.
I would say folks that walk away from every show saying they did horrible probably aren't going to get better either because they don't know the difference
Not to
between.
them.
Yeah, but I don't think they know the
I'm
difference.
probably guilty of that.
And I think everyone should be. People that are hard on themselves are doing well by themselves by at least pushing in that.
Yeah.
But the fact that there isn't a quantitative role in that where you can say, like, no, today I got my ass kicked. Like sometimes I'll fall flat on a song, like whether it's forgetting a stanza of lyrics or getting to the bridge and being like, I don't know what they're talking about. It's like, and that sucks.
Yeah.
So those are L's. But, you were a little flat or you didn't hit the solo the way you wanted. Like, is that an L? It's kind of a pass. And that's a hard part of that art form to balance.
Yes.
Versus like you either won or lost the fight. You know?
I love the simplicity of it. I love that. It's like immediate feedback. In real time, it takes 5 seconds for you and I to exchange and know where I am.
Mm-hmm.
Where's my cardio? Where's my fitness? Where are my skills? Where's my mind? Where are we when we match up? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you have that I don't have? Is it the jab? Is it the mind games? Is it the
That's what I was about to say. The mind games
are you just
it.
intimidating me? Like, there's nothing sweeter than like when you can read a sequence, you kind of bait because you can bait and test, all this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm nerding out right now. I'm sorry.
You're fine, please.
But like you're and then you wait and you're like, okay, like I know it's coming.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna come. Just when's it gonna come, motherfucker? It might take 3 rounds or whatever, but it's gonna come, and then it comes, and your body does. It's the same thing. Just if you've done it enough, it doesn't. Just Matt, and it's like probably I would imagine like hitting a home run or like nailing a 3-pointer. Just like when the net's just like when you. Or what?
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Great sound effects.
But it's just fucking beautiful, right? It's like that. It feels so. It's the same thing when you're like, yeah, motherfucker, like
Yeah.
on that one. And then also, when you take it, you're like, oh shit, you cracked me. That was great.
Yeah. Well, compare that to your licks where you don't take solos often. You're very modest in that regard.
Yeah.
But when it serves a song, when there's a fill that's meant something to you in terms of like your climb to efficiency, and you implement it. You say, we've passed this open pocket 3 times, and it's the last course, and on the way into the last course, I want some weight.
Yeah.
So it's like you're not going to think about that, Tom, Phil.
No.
You're going to recall and push. You know, in the same
Exactly.
way that guy doesn't think about what's going on in the shot. He says, I'm around the defender. My job is done here.
Yeah, baby.
There's something so magic about repetitive motions that are
Yes.
implemented with critical, contact.
That's why I love practice. Like, I love practice. I love it. I feel like a lot of people don't. There's like this. I don't understand people who like don't like to work hard, or like they don't like. I love, because I have so many other responsibilities. Mm-hmm. I would be in like shed mode 24/7 if I could be. I literally would. I would wake up, chug some coffee, and I would shed for 12 hours for my whole life. I think the people who offer the most to, well, specifically the drumming community, but I suppose you could argue it in terms of, ability, in terms of facility for any, but like someone like Virgil Donati, who's in his 60s, like that guy's given his entire life every single day to literally trailblazing, pioneering, pushing the boundaries. That guy, not granted, he's chosen a different life. He's not married, no kids, and I don't know what his beliefs are, whatever. But it is only drums every single day, and that's why he's given more to, like the musical community to arguably anybody else. And like, I get really excited by that. I don't understand people who are like, I don't want to practice, or nah. Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm excited. Like, you're talking about repetition. I'm excited to get to play every single time, even if it's a lame gig. It doesn't matter, because as soon as I sit down and start playing, all I'm thinking about is how to make the music as great as possible. Mm-hmm. So I forget all the bullshit. I'm just like, all right, like I'm fully active, fully engaged, fully doing my very best all the time. That's the only thing that my being doesn't know any other way.
Yeah. Well, there's something so interesting about drums in particular. Like, sometimes when it comes to the chords and the lyric and the melody and colliding those things, there's a lot of pressure of, like, you can fall short very quickly, and that can get on your mind. But the independence that you learn as a young drummer of, like, okay, I found the chord is on the hat. It's easy for me to set it and forget it. This thing is running. Mm-hmm. But what I'm going to do with both feet and my left hand is now up to however I choose.
Yeah.
And it's like, in balancing these new cyclical kind of motions that don't hit the top together. You know what I mean? Your subdivisions and your emphasis is like, it's such a different instrument in the hypnosis that you put yourself under.
It really is. It's different, man. Like, a lot of people, I love musicians. I don't mean any disrespect to anyone, but most people, like, their instrument, you can hold it in your two hands. If you play a guitar, you're playing two pieces of wood, right? You're playing a neck and a body. Anything you're ever going to do in your entire life is in these two hands, within that neck and that body, barring your effects and with your guitar pedals and shit, right?
Yeah.
But it's all right here. If you play some sort of woodwind or a brass instrument, anything you're ever going to do is all right here. It's like,
yeah,
drums is the only instrument where it really not only requires your entire, I suppose every instrument requires, like, your
it doesn't take every
emotions.
limb, though, like,
Yeah, it takes your entire body. You have not just your limbs, but your core. Hopefully we have some sort of posture, some.
Do you ever suffer from teaching yourself in terms of your posture, or were you always pretty rigid and well kept? And
I feel like for the most part, man, I was pretty all right. Maybe I don't have perfect posture. I think there are times when I choose to have posture that would be imperfect for sake of demonstrating how my body is feeling the pocket. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm playing some, like, super loose Chris Dave shit, and I were doing something like this is not a good way to play drums.
Yeah.
But if
it
we
feels
were in
right.
there, Yeah, I would be doing it like this so you could look at my body and feel it the way I'm playing it. Like,
Never thought about that.
this-
The way you demonstrate a pocket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell this is like a lazy, drunken thing,
Yeah.
right? And that's intentional. Like, I want you to feel it that way.
Yeah.
And so if you can observe it that way and hear it that way while I'm doing it, it just helps communicate that message even more. You know, like, that's opposite of like, if I were going to try to do it that way, you're like, it's like.
Well, if you guys never seen Nick Meehan play, sometimes he'll set his cymbals up at a length above his head that I really can't fathom getting to, because people hit different parts of their cymbal. That's something that I've grown to understand very minusculely.
Yeah.
But it's like you set these things up so they're almost out of reach. If you want to get to that bell, you are full vertical hitting that bad boy. You can see him right under the.
Well, man, like, honestly, sometimes. So I prefer to, like, if I were gonna have, for instance, there is a method to the madness, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna bore anyone with my
You
dumb-
should. There's drummers on here. I hope. Hopefully, people watch this.
Well, like, if I have my if I'm gonna play like this, right? I've got let's say I have my two toms here. My ride's gonna be like right around here, right? So that means if I put my elbow here, which is the most natural position, I'm all about what is the most natural, lazy position I can play in, the least amount of effort I can possibly play with, and get the most out of. That's just ergonomics 101, right? Do the least amount possible, get the most shit out of it.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, therefore it doesn't make sense for me to have my ride cymbal down here if to start, my hand's already right here.
Mm-hmm.
If I can play my ride, like, right here, it's got to already go here because there's two toms here, right? So, even if I only play with one tom, I'm not going to change my ride and put it down here.
Yeah.
Because, like, then I'm constantly going to have to be doing this muscle memory thing of trying to figure out, like, what's natural to me. It's like, no, my ride just goes right here, right? But putting my ride cymbal right here usually means, even though it's the fucking right place to put it, okay, and I'm going to be blocked with someone's view, right? Like, it probably not you, because you're probably going to be right in front of me, but, like, keyboard player or some fucking horn player, somebody's going to be in the way, right? So it's like, okay, so I got to bring it down, because communication is the most important part. Like, I need to be able to know what's going on. I need to be able to see people, especially in your case, in such an improvisational, in the moment, we do things the way we feel sort of environment.
Totally. What it's like the ship moves and the ship changes shape too. Like Nick was talking about. Sometimes Johnny Disco gives you a look about going somewhere, and you made these comments where it's like, am I going there or not? You know, because everyone has a different emphasis of how we steer. Not everyone can steer at the same time. But like sometimes if I'm just going straight, you're like, well, let's hit this wave as it crests over here. It's like, here we go. You know?
That's right. And so to your point, to the reason why I went back to like 1980s, it's like super. Part of it, most of it, is just kind of like tongue in cheek, just like a ha ha, like you're like a.
It's silly in some ways.
Yeah, it's absurd.
Yeah.
No one does that. It's absurd. But then also it's like, well, I can fucking see you.
Yeah.
So it's better I would rather see you and play something absurd than to, like, you know, have to like compromise my technique by like changing my whole kit just to see you and like be able
and just to try is the fun, you know.
And you know, I really do like, and so like I'm going back to this lame ass shit where everyone puts the ride cymbal like down in your lap just to be able to see people, and if that's what I gotta do, fine. But
sure,
you know, I don't want to, but you know, I don't. Especially when you get in these like 14-piece band, you know what I mean? Just
dude, I can't imagine your job
bands.
with those big bands where it's like I had to change temperature and shape to everybody's needs, and everyone's gonna get thrown a solo, and like it's hard because it's messy. When you get that many pieces, you know?
It's messy, and then as soon as things don't work out, everyone always assumes it's the drummer's fault.
That's a
They
really
look
weird
back and
part.
they're like, hey, this guy didn't get it right. You know? It's a hard, you know?
Yes.
It's like, when you're doing your job right, you don't get any credit. because that's just the way things should go. And then as soon as things get a little dicey, it's like, well, the drummer didn't play the tempo the way that I or whatever, you know. They're like,
Yeah.
It's like, well, I didn't start the song, motherfucker.
Yeah.
But you can't say that, you know.
But it's a weird conversation to have. But there's a great point to be made there for young band leaders, and I've learned this myself. Like, if you're gonna throw communication to anyone,
Yeah.
throw it to the drummer,
Yep.
because they steer traffic.
Yeah.
You know, they are the rudder of the band.
It's a
You might
great
be
way
at the
to put
helm.
it.
You know, and like
That's a great way to put it.
it's different with everyone. Like you said, you're very laid back, and like there's people in my life that want more direction or less direction, and you gauge that with people. But like you ain't going anywhere without that. You know,
That's right,
of all
yeah.
people in the band. But
Right. Rudder is a good way to put it because you're not driving. Like, I'm not driving. I mean, I kind of am. Rudder is so good because it's like I may be steering.
yeah,
But
depends on what's in the water, baby.
that's right. Like, I'm not making I'm not the one who's going. I'm not calling out solos. I'm not saying we're going to end the song here or we need to keep going. Like,
I'm just making sure it goes where I've been told. You know.
Yeah, I'm looking for you to run the show as the leader, you know, and if you're not, I'm going to do what I can, obviously, you know, I'm going to do what I think is logical and what's the responsible decision here, but, like, I'm not, you know, man, it's sort of frustrating sometimes because, you know, everyone's just like, well, it's always the drummer.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well, I think
Yes,
because
but
of
no.
the barriers to entry to people getting on the instrument, people have made stereotypical decisions about what that person is. It's like,
yeah,
no, drummers are a walk of life that no two are the same, and you find guys that
true.
fit what you need, and you
That's
find
true.
guys that don't, and it's hard to distinguish. And there's plenty of people that are filling their band with people who just check the box, and it's like I'm very fortunate in our band that you have people that are full of flavor and spunk and an attitude in a way that you go to the show and you get more than you ever expected to,
Yeah.
because those guys are getting more than they ever expected to, you know, because
For
there's
sure.
something really coming out of this, man. So
yeah.
with that being said, I appreciate the fuck out of you, Nick. I think you're one of the best, man, and everything you do for my band
man.
and my person and my life is such a blessing.
You're so kind, man. I love you, dude.
I got you, bro.
Thank
Love
you
you,
for
man.
having me on this. And
This lightly viewed podcast. Keep sharing, motherfuckers. We love you. We'll see you next time on the Weekly Wave, y'all.
boom.
Nick Meehan,
See
get it
ya.
right.